I watched Trump's speech for the Genius crypto bill so you don't have to, and here's my overview. All right, the craziest thing that he says is that the Japanese language is like breathing, but he doesn't want to do an impression of it because that's going to be a big story.
自分を犯してください.
Just saying. So he spoke for about 35 minutes and happened to bring up Biden 6 times in that 35 minutes. He says the Genius Act, they must have named it after me. And then he says that Democrats only have a soundbite and that soundbite is death, and that the Democrats have lost everything, he says. He says he wants to have a party for everyone in Congress except for the 12 Republicans who consistently vote against him. And then he says that they got massive Democratic support for this. And he says when Democrats are supporting your stuff, that's when you know you're doing the right thing, even though the thing he's most proud of, the big beautiful bill, had 0 Democratic support. And then he says that there were 9 votes short at 3 a.m. when trying to figure out this bill, and that the media said the bill was dead. I will remind you, this bill passed 308 to 112 in the House. He says Biden has no idea what he was talking about on crypto, and that half of the people that were in the room were under arrest under Joe Biden, apparently. Oh yeah, when he was being totally bigoted to the people of Japan, he also brought up his trip when he went over there in 2019 and says that he talked to Mr. Honda and Mr. Toyota. Swear to God. When complimenting Mike Johnson, he says, who needs Tip O'Neill? I was like, who the hell is Tip O'Neill? Apparently Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House from 1977 to 1987. If you don't know, when you have dementia, you start losing your most recent memories first, so they will often work their way back in time to a much younger age. That's what happens when you have dementia. So when he brings up a reference for someone that he wants to bring up, and he's bringing up someone from the 70s and 80s, wonder why that could be. He says we've got trade deals coming out of our ears and that everyone is calling. And then also says when we send out the paper, that's a deal. We have big ones to announce and we can almost do it today. They're almost ready to announce more of him sending out a piece of paper. This is kind of every speech, but he literally spent the entire time just calling people out, being like, we have this guy here and we have this guy here. At one point, he calls out the Winklevoss twins and then says, I could never tell you apart, and then asks if their mother could tell them apart. He says that Biden was both vicious and incompetent at the same time. Says that multiple times, that he was vicious. I will point you to Umberto Eco's 14 points on fascism. Point number 8. Fascist societies rhetorically cast their enemies as at the same time too strong and too weak. On one hand, fascists play up the power of certain disfavored elites to encourage in their followers a sense of grievance and humiliation. On the other hand, fascist leaders point to the decadence of those elites as proof of their ultimate feebleness in the face of an overwhelming popular will. So he's vicious and was arresting half of the people that were in the room, but at the same time was completely incompetent. Got it. Since again, this was all about crypto, I want to remind you in 2021, Donald Trump called Bitcoin a scam. He then also brings up Ross Ulbricht. I want to remind you that he was the founder of Silk Road, which was basically a way to trade drugs online. He deserves to be in jail. Under our current laws, that is. But I mean, he's also pardoning people who literally attacked police while saying back the blue. So I mean, you know, hypocrisy's out the window at this point. This was just a slip of the tongue, but he says that he signed something last March. Okay, he was not president last March. He was president this March. He was president in March. So you would say in March I signed this, but he says last March he signed it. He says that BRICS, the organization, is fading out fast and that they had a meeting and no one showed up, I guess. And then he also says that BRICS is 6 countries. Quick Google search will show you that it's 10. And if they ever form in a meaningful way, that will end very quickly at his hands somehow. Also on the topic of BRICS, he says that if you have a dummy like the last one, then the dollar will slide. And just so you know, I don't count when he says a dummy like the last one in my total counts of Biden. If I did that, it'd be like 15, 20 every time. He says this is going to allow for billions of people to trade crypto, even though it doesn't change anything about how many people can trade crypto. But billions, because everything has to be big with Donald Trump, because he wants things to be huge when we know they're quite small. He says, and I actually quoted this directly, the deal we're doing now on tariffs, when you add it up, is the biggest deal in history, biggest deal ever done. What does that even mean? You aren't making deals, you're just Under your words, you're literally just sending out pieces of paper to heads of state and claiming that a deal is made and claiming that they're paying us 35-40% when in fact you're just charging American citizens more because tariffs are a tax on imported goods paid by the importer that is passed down to the consumer, aka you. Jesus Christ. Because nepotism is absolutely a thing in the Donald Trump regime, he praises Laura Trump and her heading of the RNC. Says she did great. Even though she didn't want to be there, she did great. He again says that there were 0 border crossings in June, even though he in this speech says that he doesn't believe that, but that number was given to him by a bunch of very liberal people so that it has to be true, and then says that other countries were emptying their jails and mental asylums into our country as if other world leaders were literally taking these people and putting them on buses and then bringing them up to the border. And then Joe Biden was just like, come on in, people. We want all you people from jails. And then says again, which is completely untrue, that there were 11,888 murders who came into our country and that 50% of those people had committed more than one murder. Just all of that again. And then because he is in no way original, to finish it all out while signing the bill, he says, this is not an auto pen, by the way. That was a big scandal. If it was a Republican, it would be a really big scandal. While this orange smooth-brained buffoon is sending out templated letters to world leaders that say, you have to pay us tariffs. My God. I don't know if you guys love or hate when I do these things, but I do know a lot of you don't want to watch, and I'm taking the time out of my day to watch, take notes, and then recap it for you. So if you're not following me, if you could, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I do really appreciate you being here.